My brother once mocked me in front of our parents, saying, "Where's your wife? Where are your kids? Oh, that's right, you don't have any." And while he laughed, my parents laughed too. I stared at him and answered, "Where's your money?" "Oh, that's right, I'm the one who still supports you to this day." My name is Marco, and this is the story of how I finally reached the point where I refused to take the mockery, the envy, and the disrespect from my own family any longer. I wasn't always the man I am today, the man with a big house, a sports car, and the kind of financial stability that lets me sleep peacefully at night. Everything I own came at the cost of years of sacrifice, discipline, and endless work. Sometimes it felt like I wasn't racing against others, but against myself. I grew up in a lower middle-class family, in a modest neighborhood where most people settled for just getting by. We weren't starving, but money was always tight. Bills piled up, debts hung over us, and one unexpected expense could send everything crashing down. My dad, Roberto, worked as a mechanic. My mom, Elena, stayed home but sold cakes and clothes from time to time to help with the expenses. On the surface, we looked like a close-knit family, but the truth was, there was always a difference in how my brother Diego and I were treated. I'm 3 years older than him. From the time we were kids, our personalities clashed. I was the serious one, the planner, the worrier, the kid always thinking about the future. Diego was the opposite, charming, outgoing, the kind of guy people naturally liked. In my parents' eyes, he could do no wrong. He was the perfect son, always with a new girlfriend, always filling the house with laughter. And me? I was the quiet one. The one who stayed in reading or working on projects instead of going out to party. When I turned 18, I made a decision that shaped my whole life. I wanted more. I wanted a big house, a nice car, and a life free from financial fear. I'm not sure where that dream came from, maybe from movies, maybe from watching how much my parents struggled, but I knew one thing: if I wanted a better life, I'd have to build it myself. So while my friends spent their nights partying, and Diego blew his money on clothes, alcohol, and nights out with his buddies, I worked. And worked. By the time I turned 25, my path looked very different from his. I landed a job with a construction company. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid well and gave me room to learn and grow. I worked so hard that within a couple of years I was promoted to project manager. My salary grew, my savings grew, and so did my sense of direction. Diego's life didn't change. At 27, he had already married Clara and they had a little boy, Daniel. My parents were thrilled. Finally, they said, "We're going to have grandchildren." They looked at me with that mix of pity and reproach. "Marco, what about you? You're getting older. You're going to miss the boat." I just smiled and let it go. It wasn't that I didn't want love or family, but my priority was to build something solid first. A couple of years later, Diego had a second child, a little girl named Lucia. To my parents, his life looked perfect. But I could see the cracks. He was still spending every penny he earned. And now, with a wife and 2 kids, the debt started to pile up. Clara worked as a receptionist, but her paycheck barely covered the basics. Diego, true to form, never changed. He kept going out with his buddies, buying things he didn't need, and living as if money was endless. Then, one day, my parents called. "Marco, you have to help your brother," my mom said over the phone in that tone that wasn't a request, it was an order. "He's your family, and family helps each other. Diego is going through a tough time. They can't pay rent, and the children need things. You have money, don't you? Do it for them." I wasn't surprised. Deep down, I always knew this day would come. Diego had never been responsible, and now his wife and kids were paying the price for his bad decisions. So I agreed, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't let my nephew and niece go without a roof over their heads. I rented a nice apartment for Diego, his wife Clara, and the kids. I covered the bills, the rent, the utilities, even the groceries. For me, it wasn't a crushing expense. My salary was solid, my savings kept growing, and I could afford it. But what I didn't expect was for Diego to become completely dependent on me. At first, he acted grateful. "Thanks, brother. I don't know what we'd do without you, he said. But over time, that gratitude faded. At family gatherings, most of them at my place, since I had the money and the space, he and my parents started making comments. At first they sounded like jokes. But slowly, they turned sharp. "Marco, where's your girlfriend?" Diego would laugh, while my parents chuckled. "Oh, son, always so lonely," my mom added. "Look at Diego, he has a family, 2 beautiful kids. You. All that money, but no one to keep you company." I just smiled and brushed it off. But every comment was like a small knife. I didn't mind being single, I was proud of the life I'd built. But having my own family mock me, while I was literally paying Diego's bills, cut deep. At 32, I finally reached my dream. I bought a big house in a gated community. 2 stories, a huge garden, a modern kitchen, and more space than I ever imagined I'd own. I also bought my dream car, a red Mustang I'd wanted since I was a teenager. When I invited my family over, I expected them to be proud. Instead, the comments kept coming. "What a beautiful house, Marco, but so empty," my dad said. "Yes," Diego added with that smirk I was starting to hate, "it needs a wife and some kids running around." Meanwhile, Diego kept living off me. No effort to improve. No effort to save. Still spending on useless things. And when I suggested he look for a better job or try to put money aside, he just laughed. "Why should I? I've got you." My parents defended him, of course. "Diego has a lot of responsibilities, Marco. Not like you, who only cares about yourself." The resentment inside me started to build. Still, I swallowed it. I told myself I was doing the right thing. Helping my family, even if they didn't appreciate it. But all of that changed on one Christmas night, a night I will never forget. I had planned the holiday gathering at my house for months. I wanted it to be special, not just for me, but for everyone. I invited my grandparents, my aunts and uncles, my cousins, nephews, nieces, everyone from the family circle. I wanted a night where we could laugh, share stories, and, maybe, forget the tensions. I spent a fortune on decorations, food, and gifts. I didn't cut a single corner. I wanted everyone to feel welcome, to feel happy. On Christmas Day, my house came alive. Kids ran through the garden. Adults chatted in the dining room. The smell of turkey, pasta, salads, and desserts filled the air. Everything was going perfectly that night. We raised a toast to family, to unity, and even to the success I had worked so hard to achieve. For the first time in years, I felt like my family was finally giving me respect. "To Marco's health, for this beautiful house, and for welcoming us all here," my Uncle Hector said, lifting his glass. Everyone applauded, and for a moment, I truly felt appreciated. After dinner came the gifts. I had bought something for every single person: expensive toys for the kids, jewelry for my aunts, electronics for my cousins. I spared no expense. Watching the smiles on their faces made me happy, not because of the money I spent, but because I wanted them to feel valued. "Marco, this is incredible," my cousin Isabel said, holding up the necklace I had given her. "I've never had a toy like this," one of the nephews shouted, flying a drone around the room. I felt proud. For once, I thought we were truly united. And then Diego stood up. That familiar smile, the one I'd grown to hate, was on his face. "I also brought some gifts," he announced. The room grew quiet. Everyone knew Diego wasn't the type to spend money on others. He pulled out 2 cheap-looking boxes wrapped in thin paper and walked toward the tree. "This gift," he said loudly, "is for my brother's wife and his children." He paused, his grin widening. "Hey, little brother, where are they? Where's your wife and kids so they can take their gifts?" He chuckled. "Oh, that's right. You don't have any. I'm so sorry." The words hit like a punch to the stomach. My parents burst out laughing as if it were the funniest thing in the world. Some cousins laughed nervously too, though others stayed silent, uncomfortable. I looked at the boxes in his hands. I knew they were empty. He had brought them just to humiliate me, to mock me for not having a family, to paint me as a failure in front of everyone. My head was burning, but instead of losing control, I took a deep breath and stood up. "Nice joke, Diego," I said, locking eyes with him. He was still smirking, proud of himself. And then I dropped the truth in front of everyone. "But tell me something, where's your money?" His smile cracked instantly. He knew where this was going. "Oh, that's right," I continued. "You don't have any because I'm the one who supports you. But that ends today." The room went silent. My parents froze. Some cousins shifted uncomfortably, others stared at the floor. Diego turned red, fumbling with his words. "What? Now you're going to humiliate me for helping me with a few pesos? If you don't want to give me anything, then don't." "A few pesos?" I let out a bitter laugh. "I've been paying your rent for years, covering your utilities, feeding your kids for years, Diego. And all you do is mock me, as if I'm less than you just because I don't have a wife or kids. You know what? I'm done. From today, get a job because I'm not your bank anymore." My parents jumped up instantly. "Marco, how dare you," my mom shouted. "He's your brother, your family. You can't throw him out on the street. He has children. Don't you care?" "You've always been selfish," my dad added. "Diego has responsibilities. You don't." "Selfish? Cruel." I snapped back, my voice louder than I intended. "Cruel is me working my whole life to build something while Diego partied it away. Cruel is me paying his bills while he and you laugh at me in my own house. The real cruelty is that you've never valued me, that you've always put Diego above me no matter what. That ends tonight. If you don't like it, the door is open." Diego's voice trembled. "You can't do this, Marco. You know I have nowhere to go. My kids, Clara, what are they going to do? You should have thought of that before humiliating me in front of everyone. Get out of my house, Diego." "And you too," I said, staring at my parents. "If you love him so much, you take care of him." The shouting went on for a few more minutes, Diego yelling it wasn't fair, my parents calling me heartless, but I stood my ground. For the first time in my life, I said exactly what I felt. Finally, they left. The house fell into an awkward silence. And then my Uncle Hector came over, put a hand on my shoulder, and said quietly, "You did the right thing, Marco. No one deserves to treat you that way, not even your own brother." That Christmas night didn't end the way I thought it would. The family stayed, the kids kept playing, the adults kept talking, and for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. I had finally set a boundary. It hurt, yes, but deep down I knew it was the right thing to do. The next morning, I woke up with a strange feeling. A mix of relief and guilt, as if I had crossed a line and there was no way back. The house was silent. Only the wind pushed through the open windows. Wrapping paper still covered the floor, dirty plates sat in the kitchen sink, the Christmas tree was still glowing. Everything looked the same, but I was different. For the first time in years, I felt like I had defended my dignity. I sat with a cup of coffee in hand, staring at my phone. No calls, no messages from Diego or my parents. The silence was unusual, but it gave me space to reflect. For years I had carried the weight of supporting my brother, listening to his mockery, and hearing my parents call me selfish while I paid his bills. But last night, something snapped. I broke the invisible chain that tied me to their expectations. I also knew it wouldn't be over so easily. Diego depended on me, and my parents had always defended him. The storm was just beginning. So, that morning, I sat at my computer and started cutting the ties. I canceled the automatic transfers that paid his rent, utilities, and monthly expenses. Every time I remembered his smirk with those empty gift boxes, every time I replayed my parents laughing at me in my own house, I felt my jaw clench. No more. I wasn't going to bankroll my own humiliation. I logged into the bank's portal, clicked a few buttons, and the payments were gone. Then I called his landlord. "Mr. Marco, are you sure?" The man asked in disbelief. Yes. From now on, let him handle it. I'm not paying anymore. I hung up, and for a moment, I felt powerful. The first call came a week later. It was Diego. The phone buzzed on the table as I washed the dishes from the party. I let it ring until it stopped, then picked up the second time. His voice was a mix of rage and desperation. "What's wrong with you, Marco? Did you really cut the payments? The landlord emailed me. What am I supposed to do with my family? I've got 2 kids, man." I took a deep breath. "I told you on Christmas it's over. I've been paying your rent, your bills, your food for years. And what did you do? You mocked me. You humiliated me in front of everyone. I'm not your bank. Get a job." "It's not that easy," he shouted. "Not everyone has an office job with a fat paycheck and a fancy house. I have responsibilities. I have a family." "Responsibilities?" I snapped. "You call blowing money on parties and junk responsibilities? You never saved a single peso. You put yourself here, Diego, not me. And don't worry, I'm not kicking you out overnight. You have the few days the landlord gives you. Figure it out." "You're selfish," he screamed. "You've always been selfish. All you care about is your money, your house. You don't know what it's like to have a family. You have nothing, Marco. You're alone, and you always will be." His words stung, but not the way they used to. I breathed deeply and said, "If being alone means not having to deal with someone like you, then I'm glad I'm alone. Don't call me again. Handle your own life." I hung up and blocked his number. My heart pounded, not from regret but from something new: freedom. That same night, my mom called. Of course she did. She had always defended him. I picked up, and her voice was trembling as if she'd been crying. "Marco, how could you do this to your brother? He's your family. Are you really going to let them evict him? He has 2 small children. Aren't you ashamed?" "Ashamed?" I repeated, holding back my anger. "Mom, I've been paying for him for years. Years. Have you ever thanked me? Ever? No. All you've done is laugh at me. You've called me selfish, said I was a failure because I don't have a wife or kids while I was the one keeping a roof over Diego's family. And now you want to guilt me again?" Her silence on the line said it all. "And you know what? I'm done," I told my mom. "I'm not going to keep supporting someone who doesn't respect me." "But he's your brother," she pleaded. "Family helps each other, Marco. We raised you to be generous, not to turn your back on your own. What about Daniel and Lucia? Do you want them on the street?" "No, Mom, of course not," I said firmly. "But that's not my responsibility. Diego is 29 years old. He can get a job, he can finally be responsible for once in his life. And you should be telling him to grow up, not defending him. You've always put him above me, even though he's never done anything to deserve it." There was silence. Then my dad's voice came through, cold and commanding. "You're ungrateful, Marco. We gave you everything, and now you think you're superior just because you have money. If you don't want to help your brother, that's on you. But don't expect us to treat you like family after this." His words didn't shock me, they confirmed what I had always known. To my parents, Diego would always be the favorite. Nothing I did would ever be enough. "If that's how you feel, then we're done," I said. "I'm not going to be the fool who pays for everyone while you treat me like dirt." I hung up and, for the first time, blocked their numbers too. The next days were a storm of emotions. On one hand, I felt free, stronger than I ever had. But on the other, there was guilt. Daniel and Lucia weren't to blame for their father's failures. I thought of their little smiles, how they played in my house at Christmas. But I also knew, if I kept rescuing Diego, he would never change. A month later, I heard from a cousin what had happened. Diego and his family were evicted from the apartment. The kids went to live with my parents, while Diego and Clara rented a single room in a poor part of town. Diego finally found work as a delivery driver. Clara searched for jobs too, but life wasn't easy for them. When I heard, I didn't feel joy. What I felt was justice. Diego had been handed years of chances, and he wasted every one of them while laughing at me. Now, for the first time, he had to face the consequences of his own choices. Life grew quieter for me. I went back to my routines, my job, my home. I started spending more time with the family members who had stayed after Christmas, the cousins and uncles who had shown me respect. That's when I realized, I wasn't as alone as they said. I did have a family, not the one tied by blood, but the one built through respect and loyalty. So, step by step, I began living a new life. One where my worth wasn't measured by my parents' approval, or my brother's shadow, but by what I knew I was worth. And today, I don't know if I'll ever marry or have children. But I do know this, I'm happy. I worked for my dreams, and I earned every piece of them. And for that, I finally feel free.